I'm thrilled to be able to sit here to the right of some incredible women. And I'm a third-generation producer. I'm from Southwest Nebraska. And these ladies are making a significant difference in ag at all different levels. They're involved with youth, they're involved in policy, they're involved in their communities. On every level, for every avenue of farming or agriculture in general, we're represented today. I'm going to get out of the way and we're going to get started, but I do have a quick wish that our words are guided, our ears are open, and we bless all those who brought us here. So here we go. We have this morning, talking about women in ag, the statistics are saying that there's roughly 1 million women involved in agriculture. And I don't really believe that. I think it's a bit of a misrepresentation, because what I think is every woman who has any dirt on her shoes, one way or another, is involved in ag. Whether it's the phrase farm wife, whether they're driving the grain cart, in any way we can no longer minimize the roles that we have there. And so we'll get into that a little bit. But what I'd like to have each of you do is introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, what you do in general, and who you do it with. And we'll just start from right to left.
Great, very good, thank you. I'm Kristen Weeks Duncanson, and I am from Mapleton, Minnesota, which is south central Minnesota, 2 hours south of Minneapolis, St. Paul, 3 hours north of Des Moines, Iowa. And I actually came to this place in life a little backward, so to speak. I started my career on Capitol Hill as a policy person for a United States Senator, and my husband was my intern. Don't tell anyone.
That's a great dynamic, don't you think?
Yeah.
I like that.
So he worked for me for 3 months. We've been partners for 32 years. I just finished my 32nd harvest. So this is his family farm. He is 5th generation. I grew up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, so I came at this a little bit differently. I have been able to kind of continue my career in policy and some advocacy work both in Washington and in St. Paul, Minnesota. And also, as far as our own operation is concerned, 3 years ago, my brother-in-law and business partner died in a single car accident. So in the last 3 years, we've had to remake ourselves. We've taken a 35-year-old business and kind of taken it apart as we saw that my nephews, his sons were ready to farm on their own with their mom, and Pat and I were ready to do some things on our own and bring our kids into our side of the business. So it's been painful, but it's also been joyous. But we've learned a lot during that process, and we look forward to maybe sharing that over the next few years as we figure out how this is all going to work.
Fantastic. It's so nice to have somebody that's been at that extreme, because a lot of us have no desire to go there. And so we appreciate what you've done and continue to do there. Jacqueline.
So I'm Jacqueline Leffler. I'm in East Central Kansas and Americus, and on our farm, I'm the 4th generation along with my little sister Natalie. She's studying to be a math teacher, and she'll graduate in May, and she's going to take over the books for our farm, hopefully, so I don't have to. And so I'm out on the farm with my dad every day. When I came back, I was lucky enough I got to work with my grandpa and my dad. My grandpa since fell and broke his hip, which changed their living situation, but he's still able to drive and come out and tell us what we're doing right or wrong, which is pretty great. We got him up in the combine this summer during wheat harvest, and so that was a huge blessing to see that. We also have a stocker and feeder operation. We're right in the middle of the Flint Hills, so we're really blessed. We're right on the Neosho River, and so we have some really nice bottom ground that we get to farm. So we do corn, soybeans, and wheat, and then we're able to run those cattle in our feedlot as well.
Fantastic. Jacqueline doesn't tout on herself enough. She has her own company called I'm going to get it wrong.
Yeah, so when I came back home, my high school coach, I did track and field at Kansas State University. I was the first female to ever be on a full ride on the throws team, and so it was pretty cool to do that as a home state kid. And so I wanted to coach when I came back home, and so I ended up private lessons a little bit, and then I got the phone call to go and coach at the local university at Emporia State. So you know how many hours farmers put in, and then put a college coach on top of it. And so I did that for a few years, and right then was when my grandpa kind of needed to phase out of the farm a little bit, and so I started my own private coaching business, and so that's where Leffler Prime Performance came from. And then I sell custom beef for butcher on the side under that business name as well.
Can honestly say I've never seen the two businesses put together, and when I read it, I was like, brilliant.
Yeah, I don't
Brilliant.
think anybody has, so people asked me what I did on the side, and I got some funny looks.
That is
so.
fantastic. Hannah just got done taking her final about an hour or two ago, so give her a little grace here as she goes. So Hannah, tell us about you.
Well, I just finished halfway through my senior year at University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I'm studying agriculture communications with a minor in English entrepreneurship. I'm from Wakefield, Nebraska, which is about 2.5 hours straight north of here. I'm the 6th generation on my family's farm, and we have corn, soybeans, cattle, and we will have chickens April 30th. We will be growing with Lincoln Freeman Poultry, and that will be my role when I graduate in May 4th. I will find myself back on the farm full-time.
Fantastic. She has a little surprise after, so let's make sure that somebody reminds me at the end. And last but certainly not least, Cassie.
Perfect. I'm Cassie Lapisotis from Bridgeport, Nebraska, 6 hours directly west of here. So I'm 4th generation on my family's farm. We farm corn, sugar beets, and wheat, and alfalfa, and then we also raise cattle. And I primarily work on the cattle side. I manage a feedlot and then oversee our cow herd. So that's my day-to-day operation. I'm probably less knowledgeable on the farm side, but I can sure try. But all of the corn that we raise are fed through our cattle. The straw and the alfalfa are all fed through our cattle. So it's very directly. It all comes together in one. I work alongside with my dad and his brother. My dad's on the cattle side, his brother's on the farming side, and then about 3-4 years ago, my cousin came back to work. So there's now 4 of us, and we split farm, accountability-wise, is farm and cattle, and it's been working out really well so far. So it's been good. It's good. Excited to be here, so thank you guys.
One day at a time when you're involved with family, but isn't it neat to hear how many levels of family are involved and how many divisions we're able to incorporate onto our family farms and many generations. I'm not sure if you all mentioned, but say it one more time.
My husband is 5th.
I'm the 4th.
I'm the 6th.
4th. 6th, 4th, and I'm a 3rd. Pretty neat, and I think that's a real joy that we have with our farming. I think one of the most important things we do as any producer is tell our story. It's very important that we share what agriculture is and it isn't, and not let other people do that. And we're blessed that Hannah is a communications major, and at the same time, she hosts a radio show a few days of the week. And so what we'd like to do is have her kick off this question and tell us it's important to tell your story, how do you tell it, and what do you tell in regards to your story?
Well, first of all, I'm not the host. I'm a personality, as someone might say. Just a few times during the week when my class schedule allowed, 104.9 Max Country, have to put that plug in. But I chose communications because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and so communications, well, heck, I get to talk about my passion for agriculture. And so how I do that, I guess through radio, I get to talk about ag news and different things that's going on in agriculture, and my own personal social media I use to share about agriculture as well. Communication is fun in agriculture because you get to know a little bit about a lot, and most majors know a lot about a little bit. And so it's been fun as a communication major in college. I get to do anything from photography to radio to video to speaking, a little bit of everything. And it's all to do with agriculture, which I love.
Fantastic. It's easy to talk about something that you do every day and do love. Jacqueline, you, I know, are very involved with different avenues of social media. Can you talk about some of the ones that you do and what you found beneficial or how you're making connections?
Well, I guess I can say my dad's starting to see it as beneficial. I kind of got involved in a leadership class through Kansas Farm Bureau called Leadership KFB, and Jill Caston, who was in charge of our class, really started to push us, outside of our limits. And she said, you should get on Twitter and just see what happens. And I said, okay, why not? Because I'll do anything Jill Caston tells me to do. And so we started my Twitter account that I hadn't really used since college, and got back on there and started connecting with different people. And we ended up connecting with a guy out in Illinois, Chad Colby, who's a big ag tech guy. And he started talking about these LSW farm tires. And so I said, Dad, you should look at these things. They look like monster truck tires. They're so cool. And we'd always ran duels. And so I got super involved in these conversations on Twitter. And the next thing I know, we had people starting to call us and offering us some offers. And so we ended up getting a really cool deal on these tires for our planting tractor, which then turned into the hashtag Big Booty Judy. And so, I know, right? Funny. So Big Booty Judy's kind of went viral. I just actually shot a commercial with Goodyear and my dad last Monday.
Oh my God.
And so he's starting to see, you know, there is something out there. Or, you know, we just bought a new Case IH sprayer, and we weren't able to figure out how to use it all. And I just met the guy at this conference who helped me on Twitter. And so I've been able to not only communicate my story, but share my story and be able to do it peer-to-peer, even though it's online. And so it's something that I never really thought would be possible, but here we are, and it's been really cool. But I've also got the chance to do it in person. With Kansas Farm Bureau, I've been really lucky to go and lobby on the Hill in DC, sit in Ann Haslett's office, sit with Pat Roberts, do Farm Bill stuff with Roger Marshall. So I've been really blessed with both the social media side and the in-person side. So it's been a really cool 2 years, and I'm glad I got outside of my county lines. So.
Me too, because I think I'm just beyond MySpace, if that gives you any ages. So these Twitterers and hashtag pound sign, I know we're pretty skewed here. But Cassie, you've got the whole not agriculture, the whole cow, for lack of a better word, aspect. How active is that side of agriculture on social media?
That's a great question. I probably am the biggest failure when it comes to being on social media and promoting my story. I don't get on and I don't tweet much, or I see a lot of very funny Snapchats of people that have made a lot of mistakes and dumb stuff that have come about, but that is the extent on social media. My biggest way to influence and communicate is I sit on the Engler Advisory Committee at UNL, and I've had a very big it's been a huge eye-opener to me to be able to be on a panel like this, to be able to speak in front of a group of youth. FFA kids are here, I think that's fantastic. Engler kids are here, I think that's fantastic. And my biggest way to communicate with youth is more just to get up and say, you know, you can do it. It's not, if you want to get out there and do it, get out there and do it. And I think I can share my story and inspire and build some confidence in youth that way. And that's what I really enjoy doing, so.
Fantastic. There's a spot for everybody somewhere, and I don't know if it'll be online for some people, but we'll find a way. Are you using different avenues? You've got the policy stuff, so.
Well, you know, in the policy end of life, if you're on social media or somebody's talking about you, you're kind of in trouble usually. So no, I'm kidding. I'm getting used to it. You know, we use a website, and it's not very complicated or sophisticated website for Highland Family Farms, but most of telling our story is because I work with policymakers, so it's sitting down across the table with folks and just talking about what it's like on farms these days. I've done in the last since August, spent a lot of time working with Farmers for Fair Trade and Free Trade, FFT.com. I'm supposed to advertise that. And so I've been talking about what tariffs have meant for, in fact, that's the panel I just came from, what the tariff situation has meant for farmers in our area. And I think in the last 2 weeks, I've done over 31 different radio and print interviews with media places that aren't usually typical. Bloomberg, for instance, the BBC, spent a couple hours with a BBC reporter. So I'm still in that era that does things face to face. Although I'm not afraid of social media, I sometimes hesitate when I have to push the button and really send it out there. My children, however, are really good at it. Our youngest son is also an ag communications major at University of Minnesota, and he handles kind of our Facebook and our Twitter facing because he's really good at it. And so we let people champion the things that they are comfortable with and good at, whereas I tend to be the more face-to-face person. And we have a lot of students that come and spend time with us that are not from an ag background. We have a great relationship with the land grant in Minnesota, and we probably have between 50 and 100 different students that are down throughout the course of the year, just seeing what we do and how we do it, sharing a meal with us, and really getting to know us as a family and as people.
That's fantastic. Our university systems that are land grant universities, if you're not aware of that, do a little Googling and see about that. So while you have your pins out, hopefully, we did something about a booty. What was it? Big Booty Judy. Big Booty Judy, so write that one down. But I'd like each of you to say one of the websites, podcasts that you routinely go to almost every day. And I'll start so it's easy. farmersbusinessnetwork.com.
I use the AgriPulse one a lot.
agripulse.com. agripulse.com.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, and so I'll just plug them all with the, the Farming and Ag Rural Network. It's called the Fran Network, and so that's where you can find like Rob Sharkey and Girls Talk Ag and a bunch of different good ones.
The Fran?
Yep, the Fran Network.
That's a new one. New one.
I'm biased because I work for the Rural Radio Network, but since we cover ag news every day, that's the website that I'm on most days, looking at the ag news and also posting ag news.
So say it again.
Rural Radio Network, we have stations all across Nebraska. Our flagship one's in Lexington, 880 AM.
.net.
Ruralradio.com.
.com. Okay. Cassie?
I look at Beef Market Central just for what the cattle market's doing and follow corn a little bit.
Fantastic. I would like to switch gears a little bit, and I'd like to start with Kristen on this one. What do you think the increased involvement of women in agriculture is doing to this industry?
It's super refreshing.
Just looking here, isn't it?
Yeah, so
yeah.
I'll tell you this. I'll be very honest because it's a small crowd, and I know you won't talk outside this room. I did my first farm build when I was 19 years old, and I just turned 60 in October, so I've been at this for a while. And there are still many times that I'm the only female in the room, but those days are really far and few between. As I look at the network of people that I work with in DC, they're all women, and we all have put a lot of miles on. I mean, we've been there a long time, and we've worked together a long time, but those are the folks that we just finished the Farm Bill yesterday. The House passed the Farm Bill. It's on its way to the President's desk. And there's a provision in there that was general, for the most part, 80% of the coalition that worked on that from both the environmental and the ag space were women. And so it's refreshing, but it's also just how life has evolved, as I've seen more and more women in other industries too. But I think the great thing about women in ag is that we tend to do a really good job of networking with each other. I had a young woman who's a fellow at the Meridian Institute, which is one of the places that I do some work on environmental kind of things. And she said she was not from an ag background, and she said, I cannot believe how much the other women in this coalition have made sure that I get out and meet people in their networks, regardless of what network it is. And I don't know as if that happens all the time in other industries. I think we're really good at it.
I would definitely agree, because I've been in the business one, and we're kind of a tough group, us ladies, to each other. So it's nice that, at least in ag, we really are reaching out and lifting each other up. Something that you think has changed, or because of women, that you've seen?
Well, honestly, I almost a little disagree. I grew up just always tagging along with my dad, and he was super, he always made sure my sister and I and my mom, we knew every guy at the parts counter, we knew every farmer, we knew all of our landlords. So for me, especially with inside my county, I'm very well respected as a farmer and a rancher, and nobody ever discounts what I say because of my gender. And I think that is a rarity, and so I think I'm very fortunate in that. But also at the state level, I'm really lucky because my grandpa was, he'll be a 70-year member of Kansas Livestock Association next year. My dad was a state YFNR president. So I'm lucky I've had all these people before me that have gotten, you know, that last name has stayed true throughout Kansas agriculture. And so, you know, sometimes I'm referred to as Jackie's granddaughter, or are you Bill's daughter? And that's great, but they know I'm the next farmer. And so for me, you know, I don't see that change because my sister and I, we've just always been there.
And I wish your dad was here because I would probably stop and applaud. But I know your mom is, and that's kudos to the family. And hopefully as each of us age, we're going to see more and more of that mentality and not, is there something, Cassie, let's jump across to you. Is there some story or some issue that you've seen as a female in the beef industry that's been notable?
Well, that's tough for me as well. I could sit next to Jacqueline all day long, and we could be twins on this situation. I had so my mom, she owned her own ranch and feedlot, and she bought a ranch from her dad actually, and turned it into a feedlot. And I grew up working for my mom, and so the women in ag, the barriers as a woman in ag, I have never, that issue is hard for me, or that term is hard for me because I don't know the difference, but I'm an ag, and I've had a very strong female presence my entire life in agriculture as regards to women. My mom, she sat on policy. Was a part of Nebraska Cattlemen's, and she had the respect of the room, male or female dominant. My entire life, I've had a seat at the table, and it's taken me a while to have a voice because I did kind of growing up say, oh, you know, I need to earn the respect, and it's been a lot of fun for me to not be Pete's daughter or Robin's daughter. I'm now Cassie, and so that's been a lot of fun for me, but I do believe there's some confidence issues in women as it pertains to ag, and I feel like I really wish women would not see that there's a confidence issue. I wish they would just find it in themselves to just be badass women, and it's a struggle for me to see women struggle with confidence, but I agree with Jacqueline all day long on that. I'm in agriculture.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And there's so many things that's happening with. And I can honestly say, and it's fun that it won't be long. We're not going to ask that question anymore, are we? Right. It's not going to be an issue, and that's so exciting. Hannah, you kind of did a social experiment, little different, but yet I know you've had the same support with your family. Tell us about that social experiment you did as you were going to head back home.
So I'm in a little bit different season of my life compared to these other ladies as I'm just beginning my farming career. But the social experiment that she's referencing is, so last January is when I started to tell people that I was going to go home and farm. I used to say, I'm just going to go home and farm with my dad. Since then, I've changed my language to say, I'm going to go home and farm. But the social experiment part is people's reactions. And so when I'm next to my male peers, they don't get to ask questions of like, or they don't get asked questions like me, such as, what about your career? Or do you have a brother? Or aren't you going to get married? And so a lot of people assume just think as a female when I'm saying when I'm going home and farm, I'm going home because I'm marrying someone. I'm not. I'm going home on my own 2 feet because my family has given me the opportunity. But my social experience has been people's reactions, and I've grown in my confidence because I'm not just going home and farming. I'm going home and farming, and people react a lot better when my confidence is better in that answer. And so that's been fun to just grow in my confidence.
Fantastic. I want to see where, I mean, it's obvious that it's more about what they're doing, not so much as why they're doing it. But several of these ladies have a great history. And if you have a chance, Hannah has a great genealogical history set together, and everybody has a true legacy that's up here. So I want to switch and say, so you're all successful, you're all doing things. What are some of the tools that you use that other people may not be aware of in your industry or in your operation? And let's go the other end. Cassie?
Tools as
For me, and repeat it, FBN would be one of the tools that I use. And so you've got some different technology that's available with your industry or just a magazine that you refer to.
Yeah, we all around we're always looking into new technologies. Communication side, networking is huge. I think just being involved and learning what other people are doing on their operation. Coming to events like this is fantastic. I go to the National Cattlemen's conference this year. It'll be in New Orleans. We do a lot of networking there. Staying involved, keeping the networks and relationships. It's still a relationship industry, so I think that's huge. Technology is ever changing, and we're always trying new ones. I mean, I could get specific, but there's a lot of different technologies that we use nowadays. So.
Are you using drones at all to help monitor your cattle?
We have played around with it a little bit. We started to, but haven't as we haven't. We played around for about a summer with it, checking like nozzles on sprinklers and stuff. My cousin and I messed around with that, checking water tanks. We've talked about doing some cameras on water tanks, so you don't have to go, drive an extra 20 minutes just to see if a windmill is working. On the beef side, we do software systems to track withdrawal dates on antibiotics, and our medicine and our feed bunk reading system is all computer-based.
Is there a name for that system? Is it called something in case someone else is using it?
Yeah, so we're with Animal Health International, and it's their feed yard management system through AHI. So.
It really is fascinating. If you've ever seen the backside of the cows, the cow industry, how technical it is. It really has become incredibly specific. Yeah. And so kudos to being able to manage that. With your, Jacqueline, with your operation, give me some of your technology expertise.
Yeah, so I've been really lucky, once again, to follow behind my grandpa, who was progressive with my dad and allowed my dad to implement all the GPS technology and auto steer. And so we're all Case IH equipment. And so my dad has allowed me to make him more progressive as well, and he's pushing me to do the same. And so we're running all Pro 700 monitors in our equipment. And so basically that just means we have basically a little computer in there that I can program anything that we're doing, whether it's the seed variety, whether that's the populations. This year we wrote a script for every acre of corn. Unfortunately, we went through a really bad drought, and so we lost every acre. So we were appraised at 2 bushels an acre, so that was really frustrating. I think I could have cried because that was a lot of work. But my dad said we can try it again. Right. So that's the beauty of it. We have next year. And so I'm managing all the farm data basically. We use FieldView is the main one through Climate, which was Monsanto, which is now Bayer, if you guys have followed that in the news, if you can keep up. And so we're using FieldView a lot, and it's really nice because it's pretty seamless with FBN. Yep. So, I mean, I just had our rep do it within not even a minute, not too long ago. I said, hey, I need all of our harvest data that we did harvest for soybeans, and I need all of my wheat acres I just put in the ground. And within a minute, it was already uploaded. And so being able to really have, 2 different companies that are working so well together to manage that data has been really nice, and it makes my life a lot easier.
Same with us. We use FieldView, and it works really well with FBN. We also do LandDB with Syngenta. And LandDB, which is part of the Syngenta program on soybeans specifically. We also have and that inputs into field to market as we work hard to do a sustainability report, if not for our own selves, for some suppliers that we're working with. And then just we've played around a little bit with drones too to look for disease in some of our fields, and it's okay but not great. We're kind of holding on to maybe the next go round with that. The pixels, getting the pixels to line up just has not been as satisfactory as we had hoped, but It's coming. It's coming, and we look forward to being able to do that. Someone asked me, you know, what technology has done for us. We use a lot of different technology, like the climate things, and if anything, it prioritizes where we need to go first. We still are going to do a lot of on-the-ground scouting with our cropping side, but using some of that technology says, you know, we really should get over here first because there's been this weather event, or we just sprayed there X amount of days ago. So that, I think, really has helped make us more efficient. On our hog operation, really the only technologies that we've employed are record keeping, and that has been great, especially when we're talking about days to market, withdrawals, feed, land, temperature, looking through that kind of thing. We do run some outdoor security cameras that are super fun to watch on my phone, but not a ton of technology on our hog operation yet.
It's a lot of, it's coming, that's there. It's a lot of ground truthing, and I think that prioritizing, that helps to be able to do our day, and I think your chickens will be the exact same way. Do you have another?
Yeah, I would say, you asked about the drones and the cattle. We tried the drone stuff too, but you know, that takes time. And what's nice with Field View or, you know, FBN, they have satellite imagery as well. And that's already done when I go home. And so I can just pull up those maps right then and there and then overlay them all, you know, with our yields or, you know, different other maps. Maybe it's our soil sampling. And so having that done when you get home or when I get to the office and I don't have to stand there and watch that drone fly back and forth, you know, for 45 minutes or maybe switch out 2 batteries to get that done. For me, it's a time efficiency thing because our time is pretty precious these days. So.
Yeah. But it's so fun to watch the drones go back.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it is really cool, but it's just not quite there yet.
But it definitely does help tell a story.
Yeah, I think the hard thing for me with technology, with adopting a new software program or whatnot, is it takes a lot of time up front, and it's a huge change to how your day-to-day operation goes. And 90% of the time, it's more efficient, but it's hard because there's so many different software programs out there. There's so many different new technologies consistently coming out, and it's really it's worth it to do the research, and it's worth it to talk to people that have used it before, because what applies really well, a program for one person, might not apply as well on your operation, just on based on how you operate. So to me, it's really worth it to put the time in ahead of time before you decide to adopt a new technology.
And that's one of the things that these conferences and events like this are really great about, is because you do have the time to network with people and ask, what's your operation like? What are you using? What's been successful? What has been a huge time suck? Or what's been worth it in the long run? So I find this very valuable, these kind of conferences. And then we belong to a peer group that has 25 families from around the country. There are not any more than one from each state, and we've been in that peer group for about 10 years, and that's also a really good opportunity to ask people about, so did this work for you, or how much of an investment did this take?
Who organizes that one
So
specifically?
our peer group is through an organization called Ag Progress, which is part of Kennedy & Co.
Oh, excellent. And that's the thing that we all need to be aware of, is getting out there where we're going and different places. There's a great meeting called Executive Women in Ag that happens up in Chicago, and this year it's tied with the top producer and another young producer summit, and I would highly recommend you consider that. And this event and any organization you can get to, and always try to take a friend, right? Well, it's almost time for us to get to the point of answering some questions. But let me do one more question to each of you. I'd like to know briefly, so we can get some questions asked, who would you list as your mentors, and what have they meant to you? And I'll start with Hannah, please.
I have lots. As a student, I need a lot of help to get me through college right now. One that comes to mind first is my supervisor from this summer, Lexi Merrick. She was the communications director at Farm2Farmer, and I was their communications intern this summer. Lexi, a fellow female in ag, taught me everything, or not everything, but a lot of the things that I know about communication and how to manage a brand. But she's also there as I'm transitioning back to the farm. She comes from farm, and she wants to go back as well. And so she's just a great relationship to have of, hey, I have a resume. Can you read it over? Or, hey, I need help in this other area. She's been great for that.
Fantastic. Cassie?
Oh, I have a lot as well. I grew up, like I said, working with my mom. I've spent the last 7 years under my dad's thumb, so he's been a fantastic mentor to me. But I think over time it's starting to change a little bit, and you find new mentors throughout your path, and mentors for different areas of what you're needing mentored with. Lately, my sister and I have, she runs my mom's feedlot now, and her husband, and they have 3 young kids, 3 young boys that are wild and fun. And I don't know if it's more mentor or inspiration, because you kind of get in your day-to-day. I don't know how I could, have a family when you're so busy running your operation, you're this and that, and this superwoman gets up at 4:30 in the morning, she works out, she reads bunks, she comes home, gets her kids on the school bus, and then goes and gets her guys started for the day. And she's a fantastic mentor that way. And it kind of, when I'm having a bad day whining about somebody pissed me off, and she describes her day, it really helps me get through my day, and we can banter back and forth about what's going on and vent, for lack of better terms.
Boy, that venting is key. Make sure you have somebody that's a safe spot for that. I think Kristen's going to kind of talk a little bit about that. So, Jacqueline?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty obvious. My dad and my grandpa will probably always be my main mentors. You learn best from who you're around. But I've learned over the years, whether it was competing collegiately for track, or whether it was here on the farm and doing different leadership programs and things, you become who you surround yourself with. And instead of seeking out mentors all the time, I've kind of chosen to seek out good peers a little bit more, which is kind of a different approach. And so I'm really lucky. Through Kansas Farm Bureau, I've met some great people. I'm meeting great people here at FBN too, and through Kansas Livestock Association. And so I'm just really lucky. I have a different person that I can call for almost any commodity, any type of livestock. When I do the policy stuff that I do, like sorghum is, I was really little when we raised it, so I just don't know a lot about it. And now one of my best friends just got on the sorghum board as the first female. And so it's really neat to have those connections and to know that they're my mentors, but they're also my peers. And I think it's really cool to have that relationship too, that we don't put ourselves above each other, because I think that happens a lot when you look at mentorship is, somebody's always looking up, and I'd rather look at people straight in the eye so we can brainstorm together and come up with a solution.
What a great segue, because there's, as we look to others, there's a lot of things to keep in mind, and that's what I'd like you to talk about a little bit, is as each of us goes out of here, what types of things should we think about, watch for in our groups?
I think, I've been at this a bit longer than all of you. I am so fortunate that I have mentors that understand all the facets of everything I do. They're my friends from way back, probably my peer mentor, my spiritual sister, cut from the same cloth person, is still my roommate from college. And, I've known her longer than I've known my husband, and we've been married for 32 years. So you pick up great peer mentor people throughout all the different stages of your career, your life, both spiritual and emotional, but also professional, and also kind of the social end of life. So it's keeping them, and it takes work to maintain those relationships, but it's worth it in the end. Sometimes I feel like, am I spending enough time with this person and them with me? And you may drop out of that person's circle for a while, or them out of yours, but it's amazing how they come back. Over time, as I mentioned, finished a portion of the farm bill that I worked on with a coalition, and there was a woman there I hadn't worked with for the last 10 years, but it was like we hadn't seen each other in a week rather than 10 years. So it's very interesting and very uplifting to be able to always come back to those folks. And not all my mentors are women, obviously. Theirs aren't either. So you take them with you, and that I value them. My other mentor person is my husband, because this is his farm. He grew up here. I grew up very differently. I think we've mentored each other. We are partners, 50-50 partners in our business. And for our area, that's very unusual. There aren't a lot of other spouses that are partners in the business. So I've learned a lot from him, and I hope he's learned a lot from me.
I would all but guarantee. I think reaching out, and don't think you can do it by yourself, because now just that you said that, should I ever have a relationship of some sort, I might reach out because she's figured it out, I would say. Plus, if I had policy questions and struggling with my grandparents or my father or something, and these guys that have such a positive experience. Do we have anybody that has a question for the panel? Yes.
There's a microphone.
So input and service providers. I think there have always been women on the production side of agriculture, whether we were called farmers or not. But on this, for the service providers, are you seeing more women as input salesmen or service providers? And the ones who are doing it right, what are they doing really well? So.
I guess I'll start. Yes, yeah, over my 30 years, very much so. And it's great. I see a lot of great partnerships, women and men, but women service providers are, you know, I love the fact that they're just such great studies. They come well prepared. Not that their male counterparts don't. They do, but it's just a different type of prepared, I guess. But yeah, very much so. We just put up a solar garden, a community solar garden in the town we lived in. It's a long story, but we did it. And the engineer we worked with, totally female, totally farm girl that went into energy engineering, and it was really cool, really fun to work with her. And we did take her to people that surround the solar garden, because we wanted to make sure they felt okay about it, and they were okay about how we landscaped or put a pollinator habitat underneath it. And everybody, of course, thought they were going to have swarms of bees, and you know how that goes. But super fun. And so the answer to that is yes. And anyone who comes to work with us, as long as they're well prepared and they're real and they're transparent, they're welcome in my office. So
I love that. I think that's key. Any other experiences with females different than males?
Yeah, it's been really funny. So the last 2 years, I've gotten different speaking engagements and some speaking gigs and things. And I was with my dad at a meeting that corresponds with a cattle contest that we enter every year. And we were listening to the new cattle trace that's been presented in Kansas. And so this lady was up there talking about it. And we left the meeting, and my dad said, "Wow, it's just amazing a female is doing that." And I said, "Dad, what do you think I do when I'm gone?" And it was like those two things hadn't corresponded with him. And so it's been really neat to see, females in a lot of the lead roles in very important projects that are going on in agriculture, not just in the businesses, but, the big things that are coming up through the pipeline. I think there's a lot of really neat things that are going to come, especially in Kansas with cattle trace. They're going to be able to trace cattle all the way through, from birth all the way to, the packer. And so it's fun to see, females that I even grew up with just down the road that are leading those things.
The opportunities are endless. With any other questions? I see, yes, please.
I don't really have a question, just have a statement. The director of ag in the state of Missouri is a female, and it's really, really awesome.
It's cool.
Ours is
Yeah,
too,
she is really
Jackie
cool.
McClaskey in Kansas.
Those are
She's
good things
super
to-
cool.
It's right here beside you. Thank you. Go ahead.
I just have a kind of a question for all of you. So I am from Alaska originally, and I just married a South Dakota farmer 3 months ago. He's fourth generation. And this year, I'm a registered nurse. I just graduated in May. And I'm just kind of wondering your thoughts about, they taught me this year to drive the combine and the grain cart and the bagger, which is super different for me. But I guess I'm just curious how to kind of, when my husband, my father-in-law, and the uncle, they all work on a family farm together, and they're really good about teaching me. But I'm just curious how you kind of increase your confidence, like when I go to the John Deere dealer, I'm like really timid, like I don't know what this is, because I didn't grow up on it. So I'm just wondering how you kind of increase your confidence as a
Hannah
farm woman.
Or Kristen,
Yeah.
one of you guys take that. Because you guys were right there with them all along. Kristen.
So parts running. When I first came to the farm, I was clueless. So we just made, my brother-in-law and my father-in-law and my husband and I, we just made a deal that until I got to know what I was actually asking for, they needed either to call ahead or send me with the old part. Because I couldn't remember it all, and so we just made that, arrangement. And now it's just we do that with my nephews' wives too. That's just how we operate. But it took a while to get that going, and I do live by the philosophy that I never learned to drive a truck. A woman that is a mentor, a woman a bit older than I, across the field from me, when we were first getting married, said, "Don't learn to drive a truck because you'll never get out of it."
It's true, that and a grain
You
cart.
will
yeah.
never. Well, the grain cart is different because we can shift. So, I took those things to heart because,
I should have met you sooner.
yeah, do not learn to drive a truck
Write
because
this
you
down.
will never get out of there. Combine, that's different. People want to share the combine. People want to share the grain cart. But they don't want to share trucks. They want you in there all the time. So just those rules that, we learn to. And I will also tell you this, the people that work at parts counters or at suppliers, they are so forgiving if you're not exactly sure. I've been known to call one of the guys and say, "I can't describe what you need. Can you talk to?" And they're great about it. So people are generally really good at helping you through the situation because they've been there too.
Yeah. Don't discount. Getting that part's very important.
Yes, it is.
So don't discount that. I hate to cut it off. I hope all of you will find these ladies outside. I know they'll all be here this evening, and most of them will be here tomorrow. And just tell them, support them. Oh, we got one more question. Front. Do we still have them? Oh, you got one? Okay.
So, did you guys ever have to, give up anything that was really important to you to get where you are now?
Yeah, my whole entire dream was to coach college track and field. I thought that would be my entire life. It ended up just being 2 years. But I was able to make that dream into something else by doing a private coaching business that I could do on the side of doing what I love now. And so you can craft whatever great dream and goal you have. It may not look like what it does right now sitting in your chair, but 10 years down the road, it can look completely different, and you'll just be even more happy with it, I guarantee it.
In my season of life where I'm transitioning back to the farm, I don't know if I'm giving up anything, I'm trading something. So a lot of my peers right now are being hired full-time by some really awesome companies, and they have really shiny benefit package. They have vacation days, they have all this help to help them move and whatnot. I don't get that, and that's a trade-off I'm giving up by going home, but I also get things that they don't get. And so I don't look at things that you're giving up. What are you trading to get to where you're going to go?
Truly a great way to say it, and you can always change your mind. It took me 3 times to get back, and I think all of you know that if it doesn't fit at some point, your family will support you. Life will go on. Make a decision, stick with it, and then change it if you need to. It's all you can do, one day at a time. Thank you all so much. I do have a special request. In addition to finishing her finals a few hours ago, it's also her birthday. Yay! So, and she has a tradition of always having an ice cream cake. And bless her heart, she wants to share it with us. So I think we should at least sing.
Oh, I do
Right?
too, yes.
Ready?
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Hannah. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for coming, and get out there and just give it all you've got.